Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into our General Arts Registration info session. We are so happy to have you here, and we hope that we will be able to provide you with some very helpful information. Next slide, please. So before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the history of the land on which Queen's University is located. As Canadians, we have a collective responsibility to recognize the injustices committed against Indigenous peoples who have lived and cared for this land long before the arrival of European settlers. Queen's campus is situated on the traditional Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples' territory. The Kingston area, originally known as Cataraqui, has been home to Indigenous communities for thousands of years and remains a place of significance and ongoing relationship for many Indigenous peoples today. As a student, I am grateful for the opportunity to live, work, and study as an uninvited guest on this territory. It is important to understand that Queen's, like many institutions in Canada, was established through colonial systems that displaced Indigenous communities. As a settler and a guest, I carry a responsibility to reflect on that history and to contribute to a more just, inclusive, and respectful future. If this information is new to you or if you'd like to learn more, I encourage you to explore the resources offered by the Office of Indigenous Initiatives and the Four Directions Indigenous Student Center, both online and on campus here at Queen's. Thank you for taking a moment to reflect with me. Now, to introduce myself, my name is Tate. I use she, her pronouns, and I am one of the peer ambassadors with SOAR this year. I'm going into my 4th year of life sciences here at Queen's. I'll pass it off to Harshita.
Hi everyone, my name's Harshita and I also use she, her pronouns, and I am one of the other peer ambassadors with SOAR this year. I am going into my 4th year of biology and employment relations. This webinar is being recorded and will be available on the Student Experience Office website and YouTube channel within the next few business days. If you have any questions or concerns during this webinar, use the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to our presenter, Kathryn.
Perfect. All right. Well, welcome arts students and families to the Faculty of Arts and Science at Queen's. First things first, congratulations. You have matriculated, you have a student number, you are now officially a Queen's student. So this is a super exciting time for you and for us too. One of the best parts of our jobs is when we get to meet the new class and introduce you to the Faculty of Arts and Science. So welcome. My name is Kathryn Vilela, and my pronouns are she, her. I'm the academic advising lead in the Student Services Office for the Faculty of Arts and Science. Today, we're going to talk about the basics of registering in your courses for your first year. So just a few housekeeping items before we begin. This session is being recorded. It's going to be posted on the Student Experience Office's website, on our website that we're going to refer to constantly. You'll hear us talking about the first year registration guide all the time. And it will be in on queue if you'd like to watch it again, or you need to refer to the information later. I also want to bring to your attention the other great support and prep sessions that we have scheduled for you this week. We're going to have registration Q&A sessions through Zoom. They're lined up for this Friday from 9 to noon and from 1 to 4 Eastern time. And you'll be able to join the online queue to talk to an advisor online in a one-on-one confidential conversation. So that's another great opportunity to ask any questions that may pop up right before registration begins. Also, the day before on Thursday, we have an academic advising AMA. So that's not necessarily for the specific registration questions that you personally might have, but if you've got some bigger, broader questions about university life or adjusting to academics, that's a great time to get some of those big questions answered. Speaking of answering questions, throughout the session that we're in right now, academic advisors Haley, I'll get her to give you a wave there. There's Haley, and Darylyn, and our fantastic student intern, Emma. There's Emma. They will be answering questions in the Q&A panel, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. So that being said, I do encourage you to hold on to your questions for just a wee bit, as many of them will probably be answered in the information that we've got for you in the prepared presentation. So I'm going to spend roughly 40 minutes sharing information and tips with you, and then we'll spend the rest of the time answering questions live as well. So Without any further ado, let's talk about this exciting journey that you're all about to embark on. All right, so this is the first year registration guide. So you can find a link there. This is going to be your best resource. It's going to be just a prime bookmark for you to have. You're going to find registration resources, sample timetables, understanding what the terminology is, and it'll just walk you through all of the steps of registration that you need to know. So how does first year work for arts students? So you've all been admitted to a Bachelor of Arts honors program, but not to a specific plan. In other words, you don't yet have a major, a minor, or specialization in your first year. Instead, your first year of studies in the Faculty of Arts and Science is designed to allow you an opportunity to explore, to be curious, and to take some time to figure out what you love and what you want to focus your studies on. You're going to decide on your ideal plan combination and request that when you finish first year. So over the course of this coming year, we want you to explore the different plans we offer by going through the degree plans in the first year registration guide and picking your classes according to what we recommend to keep your options open to access those plans. The goal is to keep multiple options open, and you're going to hear me say this again and again today. So at the end of first year, you're going to have a number of different plans that you'd be eligible to choose from. So here's some key terminology. You're going to hear us talk a lot about programs and plans and how many units you need to graduate. So what does that mean exactly? So your program is your degree overall. In your case, Bachelor of Arts honors. Your plans are what you choose to major, minor, or do a specialization in. So think of things like history, global development studies, drama, film and media, or economics. A term is a session or semester. Our academic year is divided into a fall term and a winter term. We also offer an optional summer term for those who want to catch up from dropped or missed courses, or get ahead with their degree requirements, or maybe you just want to follow a less traditional schedule and timeline for completing your degree. Units are like academic credits. So you need 120 units altogether to graduate with your honors degree. Most single term courses are going to be 3 units in weight, and most full year courses are 6 units in weight. Because different courses will have different unit weights than others, we calculate your progress towards your degree completion by the number of units you've completed, not by the number of classes that you take necessarily. All right, so once your first year classes are finished next spring, we'll ask you to request your preferred plans in mid-May during a key step in your studies that's appropriately called plan selection. Then you're really going to start to focus on taking the courses you need for your plans in second year and beyond. But even in your upper years, you're going to have room to take elective courses too. So how do those courses you take in first year count? What are your options in May for choosing your major? The good news is all of the courses that you take in first year are helping toward your degree completion, whether they end up being plan courses within your degree or elective courses within your degree. Your Bachelor of Arts honors degree consists of 120 units, like I said, over your 4 years of study. And within those 120 units, your degree requirements will have both depth, so this is where your plans come into play, and breadth. This is where your elective requirements fit in, like free choice courses. So there are 3 different degree plan types that you can choose from. As I mentioned earlier, there are specializations, there are majors, and there are minors. So let's look at how you might eventually combine these plan options to design your degree, because they can be mixed and matched in different ways, distinct from another, yet sort of stacked up like Legos or building blocks. And you'll often hear them described as modular plans. So here you can see the 5 different ways that a Bachelor of Arts honors student could decide to mix and match their plans for their degree when the plan selection period takes place at the end of first year. The first option is a major and minor combo. So you choose a major, which is about 42 units, and a minor, which is about 24. And then the remainder of your courses are free choice electives. Or you might have two subjects that you want to dig into equally deeply, and then a double major might be a really good fit for you. In this case, you'd be focusing on two equally split deep level concentrations instead of one. So same amount, 42 units of your degrees in the first major, 42 in the second, and still plenty of room for elective breadth. This is a really good multidisciplinary option. Or if you want to lean into multidisciplinary in another way, you can do a major with two minors alongside. With minors, whether you're doing one or two, it's good to note as well that you aren't restricted to choosing from only arts subjects. If you want to make your degree truly multidisciplinary and add a science minor or a computing minor to an arts major, you can do that as long as you take the courses in first year that will open what we call the gateway for you to be considered for placement in those subject areas. Next, we have a specialization, which is more intensive than a major. You'll be able to spend some time during your first year, though, investigating the differences between a specialization and a major in the various areas that you're interested in. But for the moment, we'll just note that the main differences in your degree overall would be that a specialization has more units than a major. And unlike a major, it can stand on its own as a plan without needing a minor added. However, the final option that you can see here is to have a specialization paired with one minor. Although you don't have to add a minor to a specialization, if you want to add one, you're welcome to do so. And again, you don't have to decide this until the end of first year, so you have time to decide. All right, so now we've kind of looked ahead of the game. We've looked forward in time to the end of your first year. So let's back up to where we are now. So knowing that you're going to have all these plan options ahead of you, how do you choose your first year classes? So when you go to the first year registration guide, you're going to find some different ways to search through the first year courses that you can take. To determine which courses you should take in first year, click on choosing your courses, and from there you're going to see a short checklist starting with reviewing recommended courses by plan. So you're going to want to click on that link. On that page, you can find every degree plan option that we offer in arts and science. Have a browse through all of the degree plans that you're interested in and write down the recommended courses, and make sure that you're noting the courses that are labeled Gateway. So if we look at the example here on the slide, we've got a student who's maybe interested in an economics specialization. So they should definitely plan to take 6 units of first year economics. Either Econ 110, which is a full year course, a 6-unit course, or Econ 111 in one term and Econ 112 in the other. And those are 3-unit courses, so in one term only. And if they can fit it in, it would be great for them to take Math 127 and 128 to get the required economics-focused calculus that the econ specialization requires as well. So it's important to note the gateway courses. Remember that when you're requesting your degree plan at the end of first year, the options that are going to be available for you to choose from will be based on the gateway courses that you took, as well as your academic performance. Leading up to plan selection, every department sets what requirements they will accept, or they need to accept students into their degree plans. So first year grades do matter, and the higher your grades are after first year and the more gateway courses you choose, the more options you're going to have. And for reference, you can look at the grade thresholds that were in effect for this year's plan selection on the Faculty of Arts and Science website under first year students, plan selection, and then under what it takes to be accepted to a plan. Although they do shift a bit each year, these thresholds from the most recent cycle are a pretty good guideline of what you could expect the coming year's plan selection requirements to be. So think of these gateway courses as the key you need to unlock that gateway door to get into the major or other plan that you want. The more gateway courses you take in first year, the more keys you have or choices of plans to pick from. Many times students might go into their first year with a really fixed goal of a specific major or specific specialization they want to get into, but often we find that students do change their mind. So having lots of gateway courses gives you plenty of flexibility. So you might be wondering about, what about the 6 units of calculus here that's not a gateway course? This is a requirement of the economic specialization plan. So if you follow that course recommendation as you're choosing your first year courses, it will help to keep you on track. But if you don't take it in first year, you could complete it in your upper years. It's only the gateway courses that the departments are going to assess to determine plan placement, but it's a wise choice to add the other recommended courses to your schedule as well, if that's at all possible. Okay, choosing electives wisely. One of the greatest things about being an arts and science student is that you have lots and lots of choice and flexibility. But always with choice and flexibility comes complexity, which means that figuring out registration options is never a quick and easy job. It does take some time and effort. So we strongly suggest you spend some good time going over the registration guide in detail, thinking carefully about the courses you want to take and the plans you might want to pursue, and add courses to your shopping cart. And remember, we are here to help, and you can reach out to help, but it's good to try these things as a starting point. If you plan to graduate in 4 years, you should aim to take 5 classes or 15 units per term for both fall term and winter term. And you, just a note as well, you will be registering for your winter term at this time as well. So by the time you're done enrolling, you're going to have your full year of courses all set. Academically, there isn't a rule against taking a slightly lighter course load, and there's no time limit imposed for graduating. You may choose to take a lighter course load and graduate in 5 years instead, if you will. But remember that even though academically that's not gonna be an issue, there may be some other things to keep in mind. For example, if you are receiving financial support from any source, like an award, a loan, a bursary, etc., always check with the source to understand their terms and conditions, because they may need you to take a particular course load. Students who are international, who are varsity athletes, who are med school bound, these are all good things to maybe keep that full-time course load if at all possible. Building a timetable and figuring out how to fit everything in is kind of like a jigsaw puzzle or a Tetris game. And sometimes if one of the course sections you chose is full and you have to start all over again, it might actually feel more like Jenga when you pull a block out and the whole tower comes crumbling around. But if you use a timetable grid and that you'll find in our registration guide, or even just a pencil and paper, start by penciling in the most important courses to you. You'll see that on the course listings on SOLUS, the system is going to show you all the possible pairings of different lecture times with labs or tutorials that go with their sections. And you might have to move things around a few times to get courses to fit, but keep at it. And if you have some room for elective courses that are not gateways that you need, those should be chosen last based on what space you have remaining. It's always good to plan for plan B. You'll notice that tutorial and lab sections are fairly small. So during your enrollment time, you might run into a situation where the specific sections that you had planned to add are full. If that's the case, you're going to have to find a different class section that fits instead, and it might require some further puzzle work. But a tip to avoid this is be flexible with the times that you might be able to choose. So look at things on Fridays or in the mornings. The less popular time slots tend to fill up slower. Also, here's another good hot tip. By scrolling all the way to the bottom of the course section list and choosing from there, that might sound weird, but every year we find that students tend to pick the first class sections that SOLUS lists for them, and those tend to fill up first, even if the actual times of those sections are exactly the same as other ones that sit further down the list. A couple more things that are good to know as you're picking your courses. Some courses say TBA and don't provide a location. Those are online sections. If at all possible, we do encourage you to stick with on-campus courses, but you can choose an online course if you really wish. Back-to-back classes are okay. We do build in 10 minutes of travel time from the end of one class to the start of another. So if you have a class that ends at 2:30, it's actually going to end at 2:20. And then you'll be able to get to your 2:30 tutorial or lab with that travel time. The only time it's not okay to have back-to-back courses is if some of your courses are on main campus and some of your courses are at Duncan MacArthur Hall on West Campus. So if you have courses back-to-back that are either both at Duncan MacArthur Hall or both in any of the other buildings that are all on main campus, you're in good shape. Finally, it's important to remember that we give first-year science students enrollment priority in a few key first-year science courses. And similarly, you have enrollment priority for key first-year arts courses. So this is to ensure that first years can access all the courses they need to get into the degree plans of their choice. So if you're interested in adding any first-year science courses as electives or to keep gateways open for a science plan, you can do so starting on July 29th at noon. So at this time, first-year science students will be able to add first-year arts courses too, and you'll be able to add science ones. One thing to keep in mind is that the very next day or after the registration pause day, which we'll talk about a little bit later, spaces in those first-year courses will open up to students in all years. So if you do need to add or change something in a science course that hadn't been available as an option to you earlier, be sure to do that during the afternoon of July 29th. Okay. Registration important dates. This is I was mentioning the registration pause day on the 30th. I was mentioning when the class reserves are. All of these key dates are listed on the first year registration guide. So this is a really good a place to check in case you aren't sure what's happening and when. All right. Like I said, timetabling does take time. 5 courses or 15 units per term is 100% full time of a course load. Register for the full year. Don't forget breaks. This is an important one. Make sure that you are building in some spots so that you have time to eat, that you have time to rest and to do things like go to the gym or spend time with friends. So make sure that you're not lining up too many back-to-back courses, that you have too busy of a day. Okay, so once you know the classes that you would like to take and you put your timetable together, you know the basics, you know what your gateway courses are that you want to keep open. Now comes the registration part. So we're going to walk you through SOLUS, which is a student records and registration system, and how to register in those classes. First off, if you're not yet using your Queen's email account, this is something that you should definitely start today. This is the only way that we're going to be communicating important information to you. So make it a habit of using this account. This account is also secure. So if we stick to using Queen's email accounts back and forth, we can ensure that correspondence is safe and secure. So if you go to the main queensu.ca webpage, you can click on search and sign in. And you'll see that expanding that sign in option is also going to let you access SOLUS. And that is where we are headed now. Just a little additional note about your Queen's email. This is also connected to your net ID. And your password is going to be the same for both. All right, let's head to SOLUS. Once you get to your My Queens U page and you find SOLUS, you can click up there to in the top corner there to reach SOLUS. I do encourage you to take some time in the coming days to explore this entire Student Center hub, and you can see what different resources and applications you have access to. So in SOLUS, go to Manage Classes, then click on Enrollment Dates, and click on 2025 Fall. So from there, it's going to list your enrollment date and it's going to confirm your specific time. Okay, so then when you're adding your classes, you are going to click on Class Search and Enroll and click the term that you're registering for. For any full year courses, you should register in the fall term, and SOLUS will automatically add that winter term half for you. And to change terms, you'll see at the top of the screen, there's a spot where you can click Change. So once you're in the term that you want to register for, click on Class Search and Enroll, and then click on Additional Ways to Search. And if you click on Available Subjects, this is the easiest way to find the courses you're looking for. Click on the subject and then click Search. That search is going to retrieve a list of all of the courses offered that term in that subject. The first year classes are always listed first. To the left of the screen, you're going to see a section called Course Career. If you click on Undergraduate, that will filter the list to show only courses available to on-campus students. That's you. If you click on Undergraduate Online, you're going to see the list of online classes. As I mentioned, you can take online classes. Some of the spaces will be reserved for students studying 100% online, but as I mentioned before, in general, we encourage first-year students to focus on in-person courses. You can also filter by 3 or 6 unit classes, and the class status filter will let you see which classes still have space. So in other words, open classes. This is the default. But if you did want to see what courses you want that were available for that have a wait list, then you could look into that as well. Okay, once you select the specific course, SOLUS will now pull up all the possible ways that you could take this course. So here we see a number of different options that a student could select if they're taking Biology 102. So these are different combinations of lecture sections, pardon me, with lab sections. You can see that for each element of the course, SOLUS is giving us details including the days and times, the locations, and the number of open spaces remaining in the lecture or the lab. For most arts courses, you'll be looking at not pairings of lectures and labs necessarily, although some courses like drama do have labs, but often you'll see lectures matched with tutorials. SOLUS is going to make sure that you are enrolled in all of the elements that the course requires. When you've selected the sections of the course that you want, SOLUS will show it to you one more time to confirm. If you're adding a science course that needs to wait till July 29th to be fully registered, you'll want to toggle that waitlist option from no over to yes, and then you can click accept. If you're working on this part this week, you'll be selecting add to shopping cart and then clicking next. SOLUS is going to give you one more look over and it's going to ask you if you're sure you're sure. It really wants to make sure that you want to add that course. So then once your enrollment time arrives next week, you can go straight to your shopping cart where you've already loaded up all this good stuff, select the courses on the far left column, and then click that enroll button. All right, so what if something doesn't work? So what if you tried to add all your classes and you get an error message on one of them? What went wrong? So it could be any of these reasons that you see on the screen there. Read the error message that SOLUS is giving you, and it should indicate where the issue was. But if it's telling you something that you're confused about, or you feel like SOLUS is getting it wrong, that's a good time to give us a quick call. All right, so then you can go through your checklist again. Are you done? If you look at your class timetable in SOLUS for both fall and winter term, do you have 5 classes per term? Do you have any classes in Duncan MacArthur Hall on West Campus that are back to back with main campus classes? If so, head back and change sections. Do you have enough breaks in your daily calendar? Do you need to move something around to make a day more manageable? And finally, once again, do you have enough gateway courses to give you plenty of choices for plan selection, to do all those good combos of majors and minors or specializations that you want to have available to you at the end of first year? Okay, so moving on from SOLUS, a common question we get from incoming first-year students is, what about AP and IB credits? So if you have a university equivalent course that was taken before you became a Queen's student, you can apply for transfer credit through the Office of Admission. So this includes AP, IB, A-level, Cambridge Pre-U, French baccalaureate courses completed in high school. For more information, you can visit the Queen's admission page and do a search for transfer credits. A couple things to keep in mind about this, though. It is usually best to have the AP and IB credits used as help completing your elective units for your degree overall. So this would mean that in one of your upper years, you could take a lighter course load without being behind in your units. It's usually not recommended to use IP or AB courses, IB or AP courses as gateway courses. And in fact, there are departments that won't use those courses to offer a spot in their plans after first year. For example, if you want to be in psychology, you must take Psych 100 through Queen's, even if you had taken it at the AP or IB level. But keep in mind, even if the units aren't being used in that way towards your degree completion, the fact that you have that higher level course experience already under your belt is a wonderful academic advantage. So it's still well worth it to have taken that course. If you do apply for some transfer credits for IB, AP, any of the above, that's going to come up. The deadline is at the end of the fall term, December 2025. So definitely don't waste time on that. That's a good thing to get going on if that applies to you. All right, another little plug. This is a course that you are already signed up for. This is called Academics 101. This isn't something that's going to be going on your transcript, but it is available to you through OnCue. This is an engaging, interactive resource that will introduce you to the key learning and writing skills that you're going to need to succeed at Queen's. It will give you some opportunities to learn about university academics, to test your knowledge, some space to reflect on plans and goals for the upcoming academic year, and even receive some feedback. So you can complete the entire mini course, or you can do individual subsections if you wish. This course is designed and offered through a partnership between Student Academic Success Services, which is a support resource here at Queen's, and our Faculty of Arts and Science office. Although it's not a course, as I mentioned, that's part of your degree units, there are some instructors of first-year courses who will recommend or perhaps even require you to do a section. So this is something you could get a head start on even now. Okay, that was a lot of information. I know, I absolutely acknowledge that. What if you still need some more help? There are plenty of places to find information and help in this week before registration begins. This is going to sound familiar because I've mentioned these before. The first year registration guide, absolutely spend some good time on that. I encourage you to attend the drop-in advising session on Zoom that's going to be hosted by our staff advisors and some PASS advisors. And I will mention about PASS, you'll see that on the email answers as well. The PASS registration assistants and the PASS advisors are peer academic support service students, and they work specifically for first-year student advising all through the academic year. So that PASS help at queensu.ca is not just something to help you before registration begins, but that's a resource that you can tuck away for the remainder of the year, and they'll be well equipped to help you with questions that you have as you go through your first year. And what about during registration? So we have the first year guide will be live always. We've got a first year hotline that you can call if you need some individual help from an advisor. We will have some drop-in advising over Zoom. You can check the first year registration guide and our advising page for the access link to this if you need that. And you can call our main office line at 533-2470, although we do recommend that you start with that first year hotline. And as I mentioned with the pass program as well, we are always here. We're here all year round, and you're very welcome to connect with us and to ask us any questions. We're always happy to help, and we want to make sure that your transition to university is as smooth as it can possibly be. And with that in mind, I am going to open it up to see if there are some questions coming up in the Q&A that might be helpful for us to address with the larger group as well.
And I have a question that's coming up quite a bit in the Q&A, and it's about Psych 100. So students are trying to enroll in Psych 100A, and they're wondering if they also have to enroll in Psych 100B as well. And what's the difference between the shopping cart and live enrollment?
Good question. Okay, so SOLUS will enroll you in both sections when you're adding the course during enrollment. But I think you will find that in the shopping cart, you have to put that B section on. But when you're actually signing up for the course, it's going to add you into the B section, the winter term portion of that class as well. Any full year course, so not just Psych 100, but anything that's 6 units, you do have to be in the same section of that course carrying through the entire year. So where it fits in your timetable in the first semester is going to be the same as in the second semester. So that's another good timetabling tactic, is if you do have some of those full year courses, you can put those into your timetable maybe first, so that you know, okay, now I can build my 3-unit course sections around where that full year course sits.
And the reason why all 6 units are attached to the winter term is because the grade is assigned in winter term. So when you see 0 credits in fall term, that's the reason why.
Exactly.
It's not done yet.
We talked a little bit about, when you choose to take, if you did choose to take a lighter course load. And sometimes students will make a decision to change a course or drop a course, switch to something different midway through. And a full year course you can drop even into the winter semester, but because those 6 units require that the course has to be completed in full, that means that you wouldn't be getting 3 units for the fall term portion of the class. It's a kind of an all or nothing deal for the units in a full year class.
Yep. I have another really great question that came up in the Q&A. What time zone are the enrollment appointments times listed in?
Good one.
Thank you. Those of us who are not in Kingston.
Yes, so your enrollment appointment time is in Eastern time. So pretend you're already in Kingston and adjust your clock accordingly. So yes, it will be Eastern time that your enrollment appointment is showing up.
Okay, and one more, students who want to major in psychology and have an AP credit in Psych 100. What's your advice, Kathryn?
Yeah, so I'm glad this came up too, because I did mention it, but I think it bears repeating. Psych is a almost more than any other one. Definitely, you're going to be needing to take Psych 100 at Queen's in order to be eligible for a psych plan. So that Psych 100 that you have in IB or AP is going to be beneficial to you as sort of a stepping stone internally, academically, for your success in Psych 100 at Queen's, but it won't replace Psych 100 at Queen's. I should add too, though, if you did a psych course in IP or IB. I keep saying that, IB or AP, and you say, well, that was fine, but I'm not interested in taking any more psych. That's totally fine. You can use that as elective units within your degree. But if you are thinking of having a psych plan, you're going to need to take that Psych 100 class.
And Kathryn, what's the difference between a lecture and a tutorial?
Ooh, this is a good one too. All right, so a lecture is going to be the larger group. So it's everybody who's enrolled in that section of the class all together. So if you kind of envision it as a larger theater that you're in with lots of students, the professor is going to be at the front of the class sharing information, and then the tutorials break that larger lecture section up into smaller groups. So though when you're in a tutorial, you're going to have some time and a little bit more ability because of a smaller group to dig into the material and interact with it a bit more. So those often are led by teaching assistants, and they will respond and react to the information that has been presented in the lecture and let you engage with that with your classmates a bit more. So the tutorials will be a subsection of the lecture that you're in.
And Kathryn, can first-year students take law classes?
Law classes. Okay. So we are the Faculty of Arts and Science, and within that big umbrella, we have all kinds of things. There's lots of different areas of study in arts and science, but we're not the only faculty at Queen's. There are other faculties and schools separate from ours. Law is one of those. The School of Business is another one, engineering. So these courses from other faculties at Queen's are not open to first-year students. A big part of that reason is that those would not give you options for gateway courses into upper years, because you can't do a law major in an arts and science degree. But you can take some law elective courses if you wish. You can take up to 6 units of non-arts and science courses over the course of your entire degree. So you just save those for upper years. There's going to be plenty of time to do that. If you take a law course in, let's say, second year and you absolutely love it, you might even want to consider adding a certificate to your degree, which would be a second credential in addition to your degree. And you could do a certificate in law to complement the arts and science degree that you're doing. This would be a few extra units, and it's something that we'd be happy to talk to you about. And the law faculty has a great website and a great support system for any questions. But yes, that will be a second year or beyond opportunity for you to think about.
Okay, and a different question, different flavor. How far is Duncan MacArthur to main campus?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so now I'm trying to remember if we still have it on our website. If I'm gonna try and find it, and maybe I could even share it with the.
I'll see if I can find it.
Well, if we can find the video, maybe we can get some of the PAs here to put it on the Viva Engage page. But we actually have a little video that one of our student staff made in real time of them walking to Duncan MacArthur, and then they sped it up and they had a timer. So it is about it's about a 20-minute walk. Now, I mean, this is also weather specific too, so it might be a little bit longer in the wintertime, but there also are buses that go back and forth very often. So even if you don't want to walk back and forth, you can always take the bus, and that's a good way to get there too.
Kathryn, if our students have any questions when registration starts next week, what's the best way to reach an academic advisor?
All right. So your first line of defense, if you can't find the answers you need on that first year registration guide, or SOLUS is giving you a error message that you're just really not understanding what it's trying to tell you, call that first year hotline. You can see it here on the screen. 613-533-6708. That's going to be the best way to reach help during registration. if at all possible, have some alternatives, like think about those plan Bs, like I was mentioning. What are some other possibilities that you can work through with the advisor, and then that's going to help you make the most of that conversation. But yes, give us a call first, and that'll be the best way to connect. I like this. I have no idea what's coming.
I'm seeing lots of questions about transfer credits for college courses. What's the best thing to do if you have college credits?
This is another good question for the Office of Admission. So they handle not only the transfer units for AP or IB, I said it right that time, but they will also look after any transfer credits that you have from the college level. Depending on whether you completed a program at college, whether it was a 2-year program or a 3-year program, they'll be able to talk to you about the difference between those, and what year you're entering, what sort of level you're entering at, rather than being sort of a right out of the gate, beginning from scratch first-year student.
I have another good question. If a course says it's highly recommended, but it's not required and it's not a gateway, should a student take it? In other words, will that improve their chances of getting accepted into the plan or not?
So often the highly recommended courses are not necessarily about entry to the plan. It's about the department thinking about the bigger picture of the courses that you're going to be taking. So it may be highly recommended because there might be some 200 level courses or 2nd year courses, I should say, that require that course as a prerequisite. And so having that under your belt already would mean that you can flow really easily into those courses because you've already done that prerequisite. Or they might be thinking, you know what, this could be tricky to fit in this course in your upper years, in amongst the other 2nd year courses that you're going to need to take in the plan. So best to get it out of the way and behind you in your 1st year course mix. You can, if you're wondering why something would be highly recommended, that is something you could even maybe send in an email or contact the department about. But I would say, if at all possible, those are great ones to take. It would only be if it was somehow preventing you from taking a different gateway course that you really, really wanted to keep open, that I would say, okay, you know what, we can talk about some options to maybe take that later if you need to.
I'm also seeing lots of questions about what does TBA mean for online courses.
Yes. Okay. So I am going to take a wild guess and say that a lot of these people asking that are English students or students interested in taking English, because I know that the English 100, the full year 6-unit course, is going to be saying that it's an online course. So if it's saying that the location and the time is TBA, that means that it doesn't have a location. It's online. It doesn't have a time. It's asynchronous. If that is the case for you, if it was English that you're looking at, what we would recommend is, instead of doing that full year English 100 online course, pick 2 of the 3-unit English courses that you can mix and match. They have really interesting topics. You can do 1 course in the fall, 1 course in the winter, and each of those 3-unit English courses that you take will then combine to give you your 6 units, and that will be your gateway for acceptance into to an English plan in 2nd year. Even if it wasn't English that somebody was talking about, the TBA rule still applies. That's what it's trying to tell you, is that it's an online course.
Also seeing lots of questions about how the wait list works. How long after a student submits their enrollment or adds themselves to the wait list will they find out whether or not they got into the course?
Ooh, I wish that there was an exact timeline to be able to find, and I'm seeing the students nodding too. If they've been on a wait list before, and I'm sure they have, most students have been on some wait lists, then they'll know what I'm talking about. So when a course has filled up, and it goes to the wait list, that is then there could be a couple things that are happening. Sometimes the courses may just be reserved for other students. So if you remember when I said like there are some first year science courses that are going to be reserved for first year science degree students that you wouldn't have access to quite yet. So you would have to get onto the wait list for something like, biology or chemistry. But that is because of the reserves, not because necessarily the class is full. So the wait list will run itself on July 29th before those additional spaces open up for somebody else to add themselves to. Later on, if there is a course or a section that's full and you want to get onto the wait list, then it's just going to be a matter of waiting for a student who is enrolled in that course fully to say, you know what, I don't think so. I think I'm going to drop this. I think I'm going to switch it to something else. So because of that, it's really difficult to predict because it's totally dependent on those students and what they decide to do. So if it's a really quite a big course and the wait list is pretty small, then you might kind of do that internal math and think, all right, you know what, I've got a pretty good chance of getting into this course because there's a lot of students. Maybe one or two of them is gonna change their mind about things. So it's a bit of a gamble, but that's kind of how it works.
I have another good question here about breadth requirements. Do I need a writing class for an economics major or specialization? Kathryn, are elective courses truly free choice, or are there other things students need to keep in mind?
Such a good one. Yes. Okay, so we want to see breadth in your degree, but what that breadth looks like is up to you. So within the faculty, you have access to so many different areas and so many different disciplines. And you can choose from all kinds of things. So if you're a history student, you can take a philosophy course as an elective, or you can take a health studies course as an elective, or mix and match into the creative arts or into the sciences if you like. So so that's where the breadth comes in, but it's not going to be mandated. So we won't say, all right, everybody in arts, surprise, you actually do have to take a calculus course, or you'd have to take a writing course, or that's not the case. So we won't you decide what's going to be mandatory for you by what you want to keep open as a gateway for your plan options in your upper years. But yeah, we won't tell you how to spend those elective units. One thing I might add to that, actually, just before we move on, is you don't necessarily have to draw a really hard line between gateway courses and elective courses, because let's say I took, art history, English, and global development studies, and then at the end of my first year, I decide, oh, you know what, I'm going to do a major in art history with a minor in global development studies. That doesn't, even though my English course might have been a gateway course, it just means that because of my decision, it's now functioning as an elective. So you could take all gateway courses in your first year and leave yourself tons of options for mixing and matching different plan combinations. And the ones that you don't end up choosing as a plan, those are going to be functioning within your degree as an elective course.
Okay, switching gears, seeing a lot of questions about enrollment appointments. Why does it say I have 2 regular academic session enrollment appointments at different times?
Yeah. Okay. So your first enrollment appointment time is going to be on next Monday. So you'll see that one coming up. And that one is going to be different for all different students, because those within that day, the times are going to be randomized to make sure that that students' enrollment is spread out over the day, and we won't crash the system with thousands of people trying to register at the same time. The second one, though, is when open enrollment begins. You'll see that that's in August. So SOLUS just notes that because after we take that hiatus break where we're not going to be adding any more courses and no new information is coming into SOLUS, after that, we begin what we call the add drop period or open enrollment. So if you did want to make some changes at that point, then you can certainly do that. But the goal for you is to get everything or as much as possible registered in that earlier stage. So you want to make sure that you're logging on and enrolling at the July 21st enrollment appointment time.
Another question I saw in the Q&A is, do we have to wait for live enrollment or can we call the hotline for help now?
Ooh, so the hotline is not active right now. If you do need some help right now, you can contact our office. I would say waiting until that Friday advising drop-in, that would be ideal because we've dedicated 4 advisors in the morning and 4 in the afternoon specifically to helping first-year students with any remaining registration questions that they want to get out of the way before registration begins. So that's the best place to start, I would say.
Sorry, Kathryn, I'm just gonna interrupt there. The hotline is actually open this week.
Oh, good.
We've recently just opened it. It's open from 1 to 4 for the rest of the week.
So not in the mornings, but 1 to 4 Eastern time. Great.
Emma, can you remind of the phone number?
Sorry?
Can you remind us what the phone number is?
It's the one on the screen.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Kathryn, are you ready for one more question?
Sure, fire away.
One or two. This is a good question, unrelated to anything we've covered so far, I believe. Does the final exam schedule come out during the semester, or do we get our final exam schedule at the time of enrollment?
You will not get your final exam schedule at the time of enrollment. So it comes out in October-ish, mid-October, on the Arts and Science Academic Calendar, which is a resource that you can find on the Arts and Science webpage. It will be listed in the sessional dates when those will be released. So you will have to wait a bit to know your final exam schedule. You can see even now when when the end of exams would be, but you won't know when yours is scheduled until later on in October. One thing I would add to that is because of that, don't book any travel plans that you can't adjust before your exam schedule is released, because that won't be something that the exams office would be able to use to amend your exam schedule. They would just say, well, that is too bad. You bought that plane ticket, so you still have to come to the exam. So definitely wait until that's in place before you make your travel arrangements or book them with flexibility.
Okay, we're getting close to time. We're at 5:57. I think we may have time for one, maybe 2 more questions. Kathryn, where do students find minimum marks needed for entrance into degree plans at the end of first year?
Yeah. So on the Arts and Science webpage, if you click on in the upper corner where it says undergraduate, it's going to expand a whole pile of things that our student services office is responsible for. And you'll see there's a section for first year students. The first year registration guide that I keep talking about is there. And there's also a page for plan selection. So that's where you're going to want to go to see what the academic thresholds are for placement in a plan. Keep in mind that the ones that are showing up there are the ones that were relevant to the cohort that just did their plan selection this past May. And so they will change a little bit between now and when you are in plan selection, but it's still a good guideline to give you a sense of what that would look like for you. Good that you're thinking ahead.
Well, thank you so much, Catherine, for all of that great information. We are less than a minute away from 6 p.m., but we do have to end here, and I would like to remind all students to check out Viva Engage for a full calendar of all of our SOAR events. And don't forget, we have virtual socials every Saturday this July. You can also schedule one-on-one or small group coffee chats with us, your SOAR peer ambassadors, if you have any questions that you would want answered by any upper year perspectives. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and I hope you all have a great rest of your evening.